Everyone, and welcome to Adobe Live. My name is Flynn. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know why we had a black screen there. I spent a long time on those thumbnails. Anyway, thanks you so much for joining us live, or if you're watching on demand as well. If you are live, then we'd love to hear from you. Are you a designer looking to learn 3D? Are you already in 3D and you want a refresher? Have you come over from Pablo's network, or are you an Adobe Live regular? We always love to find out who you are and what you want to get out of a session like this. But yes, I'm very excited to be joined once again by our 3D expert, Pablo. Hi, Pablo. How you doing?
Hey, guys. How you doing? Thanks, Flynn. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. We should spend more time like in the setup mode, because as soon as we connect, we just geek out about like microphones and tech and studios and design stuff. It was a really good chat in our little pre-show.
Yeah, well, I usually get all the tips from you, and that's what I'm implementing. So hopefully I sound better.
Oh my God.
It's your fault.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, it's awesome to hear like you got that mic. You sound amazing. So yeah, that's super cool. But we are here to talk about 3D today, and 2D to 3D, which I love because I'm just such a novice in the 3D space. So I just always have so many questions myself when you're guiding us through that journey. And of course, as I said, hello from Los Angeles. We've got someone from LA here. What's up? LA in the house. That's awesome. Graphic designer wanted to learn 3D. Fantastic. So I hope this is a really great session for you. And I know there's some like other things that you can do after this if you're interested. But sure. I'm going to shut up because I've talked way too much. But Pablo, for those who might not be familiar with your work and who you are and what you do, could you give us like the little elevator pitch?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a 3D concept and character artist, and I do have like this sort of passion for education. So I spend half of my week like in that sort of space, like creating tutorials, helping students. I have a course online. I have a brand new academy as well that I launched. It's called the Pablander, PALANDER.academy.
We'll link to that. We'll link to that.
Sometimes, yeah. But yeah, so I do that, like kind of like part of my week goes into that. The other part goes into doing 3D stuff and creating concepts, characters for studios and directors, that sort of thing. So I kind of like blend the two together. I try to stay relevant in the industry, doing those type of work, but then also bring whatever I learn and the workflows that I develop into my teaching, which is kind of like what I distilled for today's session, especially if you're new to anything to do with 3D, especially with texturing. But yeah, that's it.
Awesome. That's it. I mean, that's a busy week cramming in so much, but that's super awesome. And I can see there's a bunch of people in chat as well that have obviously come over from like your network and everything like that. So if you're, first time seeing Adobe Live, welcome. Any questions are fantastic. If you've got a question, other people probably do too. So please don't hesitate to ask it and throw it in chat. We'd love to hear from it. But without further ado, I know we've got a lot to cover, so maybe we'll jump over to your screen and I'll just let you kind of jump into it.
Sure, let's do that. And by the way, feel free to interrupt me if there's any question that is relevant to what I'm showing. I'm happy to branch out and show the answer if I have it.
Awesome. Cool. Who's this little guy?
All right, so now you can see this, yeah?
Yeah, we got it.
All right, cool. So this is like a little sort of vinyl vintage toy that I set up for this session. And the idea, what I want to really do is not go too deep into the technicalities of 3D, because then there's UVs and there's baking and there's all these things to get to this point. But this is the render, right? So what I want to show you is a bit of a comparison, let's say, between software that might feel a bit more familiar to you, or if you're a designer, for example, like Photoshop or Illustrator, it doesn't matter. And how you can create really intricate materials. So the first thing is that if you look at it from the distance, like this little dude, right? You would say, oh yeah, it's just a red color, blue color, yellow, black, that sort of thing. And it kind of like feels like a plastic toy because it is on a platform and all of that. But the reality is that there is so much subtleties and so much intricate details that make this a bit more realistic and more interesting to look at. So you have all these damage. I tend to do this a lot because I like that sort of like feel that something is being is worn, or there's like a story behind it. But even like in just the color, you see there's a decoloration here that is a bit more orange. Some areas a bit darker. A bunch of bumps from the roughness of the plastic. So that's really what makes a texture really interesting. Even if at first glance, maybe someone that might not be have that knowledge in texture, just look at it and say, oh yeah, it's a blue dude with a red kind of like armor, right? But in reality, there's a lot that goes into it. So I want to show you how I set that up, and I'm gonna basically walk you through that. And before I get started, I just want to show you kind of like a bit of a mood board that I created here.
Cool.
So this is, in essence, the 3 steps that one would do if you're learning 3D, if you're moving from, like I said, 2D to 3D. This is basically the idea. So you will model or have like a 3D asset in any application that you feel comfortable with or that you want to learn. Then you move into the texturing, and then you move into the render. So today we're going to focus on the texturing side of things, because I think that's the one of the most interesting and fun parts to do. But to get to this point, I also collected a bunch of reference of like vintage vinyl toy. That's kind of like the thing that I was trying to recreate with this character. And these two are kind of like the main things, just because I really love this sort of like retro style and the plastic and the, if you can see all the marks and the wear and tear. Yeah, so that's kind of like what I wanted to put, but at the same time, make sure that it feels like a little toy that it might be like a 3D printed, but it has been like painted without priming it. So it like looks, if the scratches sort of reveal the white plastic underneath. But basically this is it, right?
Awesome.
So I'm gonna close this now, and
it's cool. It's got that like it as you said before, like to the untrained eye, you might be like, oh, I don't know why it doesn't look like that fake plastic 3D. Like we do it a lot, like when we're doing graphic design as well. So if something looks too computer generated, you kind of want some texture. You kind of want a little bit to pop off the page a little bit, just to look a little bit less like it's been made perfectly in a computer. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's one of the keys, right, of when you're doing texturing in 3D or like digitally, is to bring those imperfections from real life, just to make it more interesting. Even if it looks like a stylized texture, those things are, I think they're like the tiny little things that gives you the edge and separate you from like someone that is completely new to texturing, because it gives you that more realistic approach. So now this is Photoshop, obviously, and you probably are more familiar with that. I just have this like example of what the normal workflow, at least for me, would be, let's say, transitioning or creating something in 2D, right? So you have this sphere or like circle, right? I'm gonna do a tiny shadow here. But if I want to make this circle into something that feels more dimensional, like 3-dimensional, like a sphere, I will add some shadows, right? And then some highlights with maybe some reflected light. And this started to look a bit more like a 3D object, right? And then at some point I would say, like you said, right, there's the need to add some textures to make it more like a marble or whatever, right? But then you decide, right, I like this sphere, but I want to make it more like a shiny plastic maybe, or porcelain, right? So then you go and you paint something a bit more specular, right? So that that the reflection of that light becomes more concentrated, and that gives the effect that this is a bit shinier. There is less roughness in the surface, that sort of thing. And then you might go, you know what? I like this to be more like a metallic sphere. So maybe we can tint some of those highlights with a color and create that sort of effect. But all of this happens as you, let's say, take a sphere and then you sketch on it, or you paint on it. And this is like the greatest thing about Painter, that it is basically Photoshop if you understand this process, and especially masking. If you understand this process, you can translate all your knowledge from Photoshop into Painter. But the greatest thing is that you have control over all of these properties of the material in a separate channel. So roughness, metallic, all of that, you can control that separately, and it's non-destructive. So you don't have to worry about creating smart objects or any of that. So hopefully this kind of like served as an intro, but let's go ahead and jump now into Painter, which is the main thing. And we'll take some questions if you guys have some. But the first thing that you notice is that my UI is slightly different. If you ever open Painter, you can just go to Window and you can just say Load UI if you have any, or you can reset your UI. I'm gonna work like this because I work more comfortably. And if you want to follow along, by the way, you can go to File, click on Open Sample, and then you can use the meat map. So I'm gonna load this one just to show you. So this is something that comes with Painter already. And this one is a great example to work on because it has all the mesh maps. I'm not gonna get into the mesh maps right now because these are the mesh maps. The mesh maps are basically 2D images that tell the software how to read a 3D model. So let's say the normal map is the one that is giving us all the nice sort of details and bevels that this character has. The ambient occlusion is telling the software what are the areas that are occluded. Let's say, so this area right here, it's a little bit darker, or like here on the head. So those are things that are mapped out in here. And the reason I'm showing you this example is because all of that is done. So you can open this up and actually get to texturing, which is cool.
Yeah.
So
So you can just get stuck in straight away. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So go ahead and do that. And what I'll do is I'm just gonna bring in my setup here, and I'll show you the textures. I'll delete them, and I will start from scratch just to cover how it is done. All right. So this is the character. So you see, it's basically what I had in the render, and I have my mesh maps, same thing. And here in the layers, I have a bunch of layers. And this is the first thing that people that might not know about 3D Painter look at this as like, oh, this is way too much. And then you select the layer, and then you have all these, properties and a bunch of things, and you go like, nah, this is too much. I need to take it easy. I'm happy to do the scratches and everything in Photoshop, but it's really simple. And I'm just gonna show you an example of that. I'm gonna delete everything.
It's a bit like if you open someone else's Photoshop file. For those who are used to Photoshop, which I know is your example, but like I've done that before, like working for another designer, or often illustrators or artists will come on Adobe Live, and people will come at the end and just look at the layers and just go, oh my God, that's what's going on. But if you follow it, you see that it's really just chipping away. It's like, okay, I want to do this.
Exactly.
Here we go. So anyway, yeah, it's
and the other thing to that, right, is like if it's your file, you might add like one extra layer to add a tiny little dot, and then another one to add a couple of extra scratches. So it feels like it's a lot more, but it is building complexity out of very simple workflows. And to me, that's kind of like the thing that I really enjoy. Like I can make something like looks really complex, but if you distill that to the bare minimum, like the layer and the mask, it is super simple. So so with that said, let's go ahead and do a quick comparison of Photoshop. So I'm just gonna let's do two things. Okay, so I'm gonna delete that as well. All right, so I have a duplicate of that sphere, and I'm gonna make this sphere slightly darker and maybe less saturated, right? So before, after. Now in Photoshop, if I wanna blend these and create something interesting, and that's why I've collected some textures here, I can take any of these images and I can make them into a mask, right? So I'm gonna take this, and I'm going to create a mask here. And then I'm going to hold the Alt key to get into the mask and Control V to paste that in. That's it. That's enough. And then go back in here. So now you have this texture because we're telling Photoshop, the software, we want to use this black and white image, and whatever is lighter, let through that the information on this layer. If anything, we can make it a bit more obvious. Let's make it red, right? So anything that is light is letting that red color through. So what I can do is selecting the actual mask, I can press the Control L to bring in levels, and I can contrast that as well. And that way I can sort of define exactly what are the areas of that red layer that I want to see, right? Yeah. And of course you can do a bunch of things like inverted. So Control I to invert if I select it, Control I to invert it, that sort of stuff. But the point is that you are just using a black and white image, and you're controlling the effect with just a black and white image. That is the key. And now that I have this is sort of like non-destructive because this is a shape. I can double click it, and then I can just go with maybe a darker color, right?
Right.
And then I can do the same thing. Let's duplicate that. So Control J. But this time in this mask, I'm going to bring in maybe this one that has a little bit of color, but once you paste it into the mask, it's going to be black and white. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to make this another color that is very bright so that I can see it. And then I'm going to select the mask, and I'm going to push that in. Right? So I know that we haven't touched on Painter yet, but believe me, once you get this, it's like you can run with it. All right, so now we have this. Let's go ahead with a blue one, make it lighter. All right, cool. So this is a 2D process, right? We're just connecting the dots by adding complexity and make the material more interesting just by controlling the mask, the black and white mask. Now, that's it. If we go into Painter, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a simple plastic material with one color, and then I'll show you can repurpose that. So here, this is the paint bucket. If you click on this one, it's going to create a fill layer, right? And this is the tricky part that sometimes it sort of like put people away from Painter because they think, why do we have color, metal, roughness? It's like I have to work on 5 channels at the same time, or it's 5 times the work. It could be a little bit confusing if it's the first time that you open it. So the color just refers to the albedo or the diffuse light the metal refers to the metallic property. So you have this slider, if I enable it, that makes it metallic or non-metallic. So let's make it metallic just for the sake of demo. The roughness determines the quality of the surface. So something like concrete will be really, really rough. Something like porcelain would be, or plastic, shiny plastic would be really not rough. So you have this to make it chrome, or you can make it like really rough, right? So you have the ability to go back and forth between making this more like a metallic surface or more like a plastic surface, that sort of thing. The normal map, this is where you add details. So I'm going to ignore that one. And the same thing with hide. I'll show you that in a bit. So these are the different channels. Hide determines with a black and white image what goes up or what goes down in terms of details from the surface. That's it. So we're going to keep things super simple and toggle everything off and just leave color. So we're going to make a blue plastic, right? Let's select something like this. I'm going to try to do something similar to what I had. Okay. So we now have a plastic material. If you think it is too shiny or not too shiny, then you incorporate the roughness and decide, all right, let's make this more opaque, like so. And that's it. We have this simple setup, and now we're going to have to duplicate like the same thing that we did in Photoshop and bring in some mask. So I want to go for this layer. I want to double click it and call it base. And if you press Control and D, it will duplicate. So D for duplicate. And I want to call this one C var 1. And that's just like for myself, like C for color and var for variation. So color variation number 1. And I'm going to duplicate this one more time. And color variation 2, right? So it respects kind of like the numbers. That's why I do it. So this is similar to what we have set up in Photoshop, right? We just need to bring in the mask and see how that affects the model. So let's toggle the first one off, and we're going to concentrate on this one. In fact, let's make it red just to follow kind of like the same principle I showed you in Photoshop. And let's create a black mask. So from this icon, you see it's exactly the same as the mask in Photoshop, the same icon. So click on black mask. That creates a black mask. Obviously, anything that is black is going to be hiding the layer. And the other amazing things about a painter that Photoshop doesn't have it, unfortunately, so I cannot show you a comparison, or not in the same way, is that you can create a stack of effects for the mask itself. So you can, if you want, hold the Alt key, same in Photoshop, go into the mask and select a brush. So here on the left-hand side, this is your library. I'm going to go to Assets, click on the paint brushes. Let's say this archive, archive ink. I can start doing like this, and then I can already paint my mask, right? So if I go back to my layer, you can see it. However, this is the idea is to show you like a non-destructive workflow. So instead of just painting directly on the mask, I can go to this effect and I can click on Add Paint. So that allows me to paint and create everything in one paint layer within the mask. I can do as many as I need to, right? So I have basically separated my strokes in different paint layers. And this is super handy because you can, you have control of the opacity of each stroke independently and all of that. But again, I'm going to keep it super simple. I just want to show you that this is one of the great things about Painter.
Cool.
So let's go ahead and click on the magic one, click on Add Fill. And this basically creates a fill layer for the mask. You see it is set to grayscale. That's why you see kind of like 50% of that red coming through, but you can just change that like so. And this is how we can start building the complexity. So in the library, we can go to the textures. And these are a bunch of textures that come with Painter anyway. So you can type grunge. And you see all of these black and white images. So I'm going to go for maybe something like this, grunge, dirty, muddy. So I'm going to drag and drop this into the grayscale. So this is my input. Instead of just being a slider, it becomes a grayscale image. All right, so now you can see that coming through, and then we can just go ahead and start playing with the balance. It's the same thing as the levels, but it comes kind of like attached to that, that layer, which is great. And not only that, because it is 3D, we can move this around. So you can select here at the projection tab. This is how basically the software interprets that image or how it is projected in 3D. This is like a different concept from 2D, obviously, because now we're dealing with, three-dimensional objects. So we're going to switch this from UV to triplanar. So triplanar basically creates this cube, right? And what it does is it kind of like has the same texture being projected from the 6 sides, and it projects that into the character. And then you have this manipulator. If you don't see it, it's make sure that you turn this on, and then you have move, rotate, and scale. So I can just go ahead and move this around, and you see I'm kind of like moving the effect of that layer. Mm-hmm. And the same thing, we can scale this down or up. You want more or less details, but that's basically it, right? Now, what I can do, because again, it's non-destructive, is I can just go ahead and select the color and click on this and maybe switch to a darker tone, or, pick it from here. All right. So super subtle stuff, right? But you can start to see like that interesting pattern coming through. Let's go ahead and do the same thing just to repeat the process one more time, and I'll show you something else. So I'm gonna create a black mask, and this is kind of like a quality of life tip for Painter, that you don't have to create the bucket, like the fill layer, and then drag things in here. You can literally just find something that you want to work with. Let's go for these grunge leak spots and drag and drop that into the mask. And because we are dragging an image, it's going to automatically create that fill layer for us, right? Remember, we have the same color. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to make it black just so you can see it. And do the same thing. Select the fill layer, make this triplanar, and then we can play with the balance of that layer, the contrast if we want. And that's it. We can just go ahead and change the color. So this one might be a little bit lighter. So just to add a bit of the coloration, like so. But super subtle things. Again, if you look at it from the distance or to the untrained eye, you see this is just a blue plastic. But if I turn off these two layers, you see this is like a boring plastic. This is an interesting plastic, right?
Yeah.
Now, we can make things even more interesting, because if you think about it, any decoloration or anything that might affect the material over time might actually affect the other properties of the material. So the roughness might be, shinier or more rough. So I'm going to get closer here. I'm going to select the first one, and we have rough here, and I'm going to push it all the way down. So you can see as I rotate the light, I'm holding the shift and right click, by the way, I can rotate the light around. You see some areas that are a bit more shiny. So that's kind of like what I want to do, but not that intense. So I'm going to push that down a bit, and the same thing for the other one. Right? So now we have some interesting roughness and highlights with only two layers in the same way that we set up in Photoshop. All right. I'm going to pause it here because if you're new, I just threw at you a bunch of stuff. So I'm happy to answer any questions. And then we're going to move into what the height map does, or the height channel does, to add those bumpy surfaces and all of that. And then we sort of like wrap it up with assigning the different materials. So
nice.
Happy to answer any questions if
all
you
right.
have.
Yeah, so there isn't any questions in chat, but now's your chance to throw them in if you want to. But I've definitely got some questions while we take a quick little break. The cube, I think I misunderstood. I didn't pick up what we were doing with the cube and moving that around at that step. I don't know if I'm the only one, but if you could recap that bit. That was the only bit that I didn't quite follow. I wasn't sure why we set up the invisible cube, because it came and then it disappeared.
Yeah. So it didn't disappear. I just hit it. So basically, this is the map, and it's set to triplanar projection. That is what the cube does.
Right.
It projects in the three axes: Z, Y, and X. So from the two sides, from the front and back, and from the top and bottom. Right.
It projects
so that's why it's called triplanar.
Light, or it projects texture. What does it project?
It projects the image.
Oh, okay.
Right now, if I hold the Alt key to go into the mask, this is the mask.
Right. Okay. And that's what you selected over on the left. That texture, it's being projected in from all four sides. Okay, I got it now.
Yeah, correct. Let me do.
It's literally like if you put a texture on a projector and on a wall, and
exactly.
then it's literally that. Okay, it's really interesting.
That's exactly what it is.
Straightforwardness of the language. Yeah.
Idea. All right, so this is a checkered texture, the same thing, instead of the other texture. I'm gonna set it to triplanar, and I'm gonna scale it down. Or up. It's down.
Right? Okay. So it just clicked.
Now we have, if I move this out of the way, you see this tiny cube is the same thing as having those four squares in that image. And that's what I'm projecting from each side. So if you look at it from, let's say, the corners, if I go back, maybe I'm going to try something with more. Let's try this one. This is an image I had. So this thing right here, it is projecting from the front, back, top, bottom, left, and right. But if I go closer to the edge, maybe around here, you'll see that things are starting to fade. Because the software kind of like does an interpolation, or not interpolation, but like it fades between the top plane that is being projected, like you said, from a projector to a wall, and the one on the left. Yeah. So you have this hardness slider. So if I make it 0, is a lot smoother, which is usually sometimes what you want. Or if I push it all the way to the top, it's going to be one, and you can really see where the cube is kind of like defining the plane that goes on the top and the one on the back. That's all there is. Now the difference, or the reason why I recommend TriPlanner, especially when you're starting up and all of that, is because this has to do with the way that you create the UV maps. And the UV maps is essentially how the software interprets any 3D object. So if you think about, like a Kinder Surpresa type of egg, right? When you or like a Ferrero Rocher, or like anything that has like that wrapping, you have the sphere, right? And then you unwrap it. If you're careful and then you pull it apart and make it flat, it is actually just a square, right? That's a UV map. So you wrap it around the 3D object, and that's what the software interprets and know, okay, I know where to place this 5H, right? And let me show you.
That's cool. That's a really good explanation. I like that. Yeah.
This is what the UV map is really. So we know for a fact that let's say 4E goes here in this platform. I think this is the platform of the character. So let's go back to 1. So 4E or 4C should be around here. Anyway, it's there. But that's basically what this cube does. So I didn't remove it or anything. I just clicked on this icon to hide it so that I don't, the UI doesn't bother me as much. But that's basically what it is. If you set it to anything else, for instance, let me just give you another example quickly, which is, let's grab this. If you drag it directly onto the character, not into the stack of layers, what it's going to do is going to project the same thing, the same image, but only once. It's not going to repeat it. So I'm going to project it as a base color, right? So you see you have that image there, and you have this option to move things around, right? So this is a single projection, and you see it is called wrap projection. So at this point, I can say, let's make it TriPlanner, and it will just go back to that different type of projection, or make it UV, or, that sort of thing. So it's just the way that that you're telling the software how you want to apply that texture or that wrapping paper into your 3D object. Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Cool. Makes sense.
Alrighty. Cool. Any questions, or should
I think we'll keep moving on. But as always, if you've got any questions, chat, other than my own, throw them in. Otherwise,
we can pack a Q&A at the end if you need to. All right. So the next thing that makes this whole idea of working with textures in 3D really interesting is the fact that you can also affect the details, like the actual mesh details that capture light. So right now we've only dealt with color and roughness. That's what we got here. What I'll do is I'm going to create another layer, and I'm going to make it red again. Maybe that's too much, so that you can see it. I'm going to follow the same process. And this is another kind of like important thing to keep in mind. I'm kind of like repeating myself a lot, but I'm repeating the workflow that you can do in a very simple set of steps to create that complexity. So I want to add a black mask again. And this time I'm going to go for, let's go for spots, or just type. I mean, you can just browse the entire library. All of these things come with Painter anyway. So this grunge pebble spot, let's try this one. Drag and drop that in here. And then it creates that effect, exactly the same thing as we've been doing before. But now I think this is a little bit too big for what I need. I want to have like little tiny bumps or scratches, maybe indentations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this into TriPlanner, and then we have the tiling. So the tiling is the same thing as selecting the scale and making this larger or bigger. The tiling is just going to take the same image, it's going to tile it up and down and left and right. So I can do this, and you see, I get closer, I'm just styling this, right? By the way, like in Photoshop, you can hold the Alt key to go into the mask, or if you want to quickly toggle the mask off and see what you're doing, like on and off, you press the Shift key and click on the mask. So I'm going to hide that mask. And in Photoshop, it's the same, by the way. You can just press Shift and hide those masks. So it's very familiar in that sense. All right, so I'm going to take this one, go into the mask, and do something like this, maybe less. Also, maybe just rotate it a little bit just to make things a bit more interesting. And I'm going to reduce the balance. So I'm going to keep things very simple, just a couple of them. And this is another really cool thing that is exactly the same part of the process, the same steps, but then you add complexity to it. So I'm going to bring in another thing. Let's try these grunge spots. Let's drop that here right on top. And then you see we create 2 fill layers. So we're adding a stack of effects to just the mask. So I'm going to take this one, do the same thing, TriPlanner. I'm going to increase the tiling a little bit, and then reduce the balance. So right now, this thing is overriding what we had before, right? But like in anything, like in Photoshop, we'll go back here. Let's make this a black and white image really quickly. All right, so we have those things like so, right? And then if I do another layer that is black, that has a different pattern, right? Obviously, one layer is overriding the other one, but you can do things like set this to screen, and then we're basically blending the two things. So you can do the same thing just with this stack of layers within Painter. So here I can go to the blending mode and go, let's set this to screen. So you see that one is coming through on top.
Yeah.
So that way it creates a non-destructive workflow, because I can go back and say, you know what, the first one could actually be a little bit larger. So I can push that up like so. And the second one could actually be a bit less, so just reduce the balance or increase the tiling effect, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So this is what is really, really cool. Now, not only that, but let's say that you look at these like tiny dots and you think, for what I need, this is a little bit too perfect. I want to distort it a little bit more. So again, in the effects, you can go to the magic one, click on add filter. And in here, we can select a bunch of filters. So I'm going to look for, let's go for warp. So WA, there we go. So warp. So this is going to warp. And this is the intensity of that warp. So it's going to take whatever is below that and it's going to warp that effect. So you can just add a little bit of wobbly to it, wobbly effect. And you can play things you can play with things like the tiling of that effect. So you can increase that. So it's a lot more warping going on. And this is how really I like to create this complexity, just a bunch of layers. And if I don't like it, I just go, let's turn that off. Or if I want to reduce it, let's just move on with this one. I can move them, by the way, I can go, right, I want this detail around here.
Wow.
Right?
The amount of detail, like how many variables you could change to make these changes just in one layer. And you can really drill down really, really deep into what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's to me, like that's the thing that makes it really exciting, because I have a lot of control, even though it's very simple. And it is very subtle as well. Like it's not like there's a huge difference. However, now that you understand like the stack of layers, this is still a single fill layer with, red color. I'm going to select something similar to the, by the way, this is another extra tip. If you're selecting a color within Painter and you click on the eyedropper and then you go for like, I want this blue, you see it's not getting the actual blue color. If you press the shift key, it's actually going to take the base color. So if you don't use the shift key, it's going to take the value of the color with the 3Dness, right? So like here, it's going to grab the highlight. Here, it's going to grab like the darkness of it. But if you press shift key, it's going to have just the base color. And if you don't know what the base color is, here at the top right, you can actually filter by the channels. So you can press base color. This is showing you only color without any shading, any reflections or anything. Same thing with something like roughness, which we have, right? So this is the roughness. Anything that is darker is going to be less reflective. Anything that is lighter is going to be more reflective, that sort of thing. And another extra tip, you can kind of like cycle through these channels by pressing the letter C. So you just go C, 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 and it's cycling through the channels, including the mask that we're doing. To go back to the material, just press M or just select it from here, and that's it. Now, we have this layer, and I'm going to name it details, and I'm also going to right-click and give it a red color to the layer so that I know what it is. Same thing as if I right-click on this one and go color, red color, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. But here's the cool thing. I'm going to take the roughness, enable that, and I'm going to make these less rough. Because I would imagine, let's say this material or this toy is originally, just like a shiny plastic, and over time it just collects dust and all of that. And then if you chip things away, it might reveal the original plastic if it is like a very sharp scratch. Or if it's something like really rough, like sand or like a sanding paper that creates the scratch, then you can just go for something a lot rougher. But you can do that just by moving a slider. You see those details coming through here. I'm going to do it like this, and then I'm going to enable hide. Now with hide, you have this slider, and then you can go to the negative values or the positive values. So this is what allows you to create those tiny, this looks more like a concrete thing because it's a lot, but you can create those things. So I'm going to go for -0.01, something super subtle. right? But it's giving us something really interesting. And another level of control that you have is now that you see the effect, you can go back to the layer and go, let's say the second one, these points, maybe it is still too much. So I'm going to reduce the opacity so that they don't affect that stack of layers as much.
Cool.
Right?
And
So
I'm just going to interrupt just to let you know that we've got about a little bit over 10 minutes left as well.
Okay, cool. So I'm pretty much done with this. I'm just gonna show you one more thing. Like if you wanna, I think this is pretty much it really,
Cool.
because it builds the complexity just by adding details. And you notice I haven't actually used the brushes to paint anything. This is just like using black and white images. Right? So as a quick recap, we have the original mask that gives us a little bit of grunge and color variation. The second one, same thing. And the third one that is giving us those details because we are also enabling the high channel. So now I'm going to go ahead and select everything, Control G to group it, same like in Photoshop, everything, Control G, group it. And in this group, I'm going to call this one blue, right? So now I'm going to duplicate this, Control D, and I'm going to call this one red. Duplicate it again. Call this one yellow. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Yellow. There we go. And then what I'll do is I'm going to show you another thing that you can do in Photoshop, right? Or that you could do that is similar to Photoshop.
Right.
So in this red one, what I'll do is I'm going to go to the effects. I'm going to click on filter and I'm going to click and type HSL perceptive. So this one is the same thing as the hue saturation value or lightness in Photoshop. So I can just very quickly change the entire values of this material, and it's not affecting, we have the same properties, all the details, we have all the colors variation, all of that stuff is still coming through, but I'm just reducing the changing the hue really and the lightness. So before, after, so these two things. Now I want to be able to assign this color, this red color that I repurposed from the blue to certain areas. So you can add mask to the entire folder, just like in Photoshop. So the red one, I can go click on black mask to hide it, click on the magic one, click on add paint. And then this add paint is the same thing as, you can just go ahead and paint this and try to be very accurate and paint that. Or you can switch to this tool right here, which is called the polygon fill. So the polygon fill allows you to, you see that it's displaying now the mesh maps,
or like not the
grid,
mesh map,
the mesh. Yeah. So now you can select by triangle. So if I click on this, it will select the triangle, right? Or you can click on the polygon, the entire polygon, or you can use the UV. But the best thing in this case would be to use the mesh fill. So this is going to look at the entire object. So I can click on this one and you'll see it fills the entire thing. And then click, 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 click.
Oh, wow.
Click, click. And we're done with the red one. And then I'll just do the same thing. Obviously, we're not going to do the whole thing, but the yellow one, same thing. Add a black mask, add a paint layer, and let's select those bits. Oh, I haven't actually changed the effect. So another cool thing, I'm going to take this HSL, hold the Alt key, and drag and drop it in here. So the same as in Photoshop, you can hold the Alt key and drag and drop things to duplicate. So we're duplicating the HSL perceptive, but this is for the yellow. So let's make it yellow. Kind of.
Right.
Right. And that's it. Let's do one more extra thing is you notice I don't have the same colors on the other side. You can enable symmetry by clicking on this icon right here. And then whatever I choose is going to be on both sides.
Oh, cool.
Right. And, this is the same thing for the entire process. Obviously, you can do the same thing for the black eyes from the rest. And then just to wrap it all up, we still have time just for the last tip.
Oh, yep.
Yep. So last thing would be, and this is something really cool that probably you've seen about Painter, that are the generators. So I'm going to go ahead and click on a fill layer. This is going to be dust. So I'm going to make it really rough and do some kind of like dark dust like so. You can go to the black mask, add a black mask, go to the magic one and click on add generator. So these are like things to do with the masking. So in the generators, we can go for dirt, for example, and this already creates this dirt effect using those mesh maps. So you see it recognizes where the cavities are and it will collect that dust. So you can just add the level of dustiness, let's say, or wear and tear. You can reduce the grunge amount. So now it is a little bit cleaner here, or increase that grunge amount a lot more. And all of this is non-destructive, right? You can still add maybe something like this grunge on top. This is just another image like we've been doing it, and that overrides that mask, right? So this is the generator. This is the new thing. And you can say, you know what, all of these white areas, I want to remove them. So you can set the blending mode to subtract, like in Photoshop. And now you see this map is removing some pieces from that dirt, like so, right?
Wow.
And yeah, this is all non-destructive, so you can go back at any time and redo it. And yeah, that's the great thing about Painter. And this is why I think this is what I wanted to do this session, because a lot of the questions that I usually get about Painter is like, oh, this is like too complex. I don't want to get into the details of the technicalities. But if you sort of like draw that comparison to Photoshop, it's a lot easier to kind of like get into it.
Yeah. And I think like another big takeaway is, I think when you were kind of drawing, you were showing, oh, you're trying to get this edge. I think a lot of people can get stuck in their head and they think that there needs to be this artistic sculpting kind of side of things. Now, we weren't creating a 3D model. We were focusing on the texture and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But there was nothing necessarily, I would say, like skill based. There's a really what's it, like low barrier to entry into jumping into this, right? Like you don't have to have a full like graphic design background or fine art background or anything like that. You could really, anyone could just jump into it that's a little bit familiar with software, and you could pick it up pretty quick, I think, from what you showed.
Well, with that in mind, I mean, this is not gonna take too long, but if you're like a graphic designer, like I have this image that I did in Illustrator, right? This is an Illustrator file, like an .ai thing. So if I drag and drop it directly here, you'll see it will just bring it in. This is like a sticker thing.
It's like an Apple sticker.
And because everything is connected, I can just go to the properties of that sticker or that image, scroll here, and you'll see I have these file tab settings, and I have the artboard. So in my Illustrator file, I created 4 different artboards, and I can select them from here, and it will update this at any point. Cool. So that's like a really cool way to add this type of things. And you have like the roughness channel, and you have all of those stuff that you want to include it. Same thing with Photoshop. You can just drag and drop a Photoshop file. Have this one. I'm gonna make it a base color, and then you can just move it around.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's it. Just a couple of things again before we forget.
Yeah, you're good.
If you like this type of thing, and you're kind of like, if this kind of like opened your eye and you go like, this is actually not too bad. I have a full tutorial as well on this sort of like comparison, and I built another complex material with these simple steps in my YouTube channel. I'll share the link with you, and let's see, in case you want to follow,
We'll share that in chat, and I'll update the event as well to make sure that we link to it for those that are watching on demand as well. So you can check down in the description if you're watching on demand.
Yep. So that basically is that similar to what we did before, a little bit more structure and longer. And a little surprise that I have for you guys as well is this hasn't been, I haven't published this or anything, but we do have a link already that works for a workshop that I'm going to be doing. It's a free workshop, totally free. I'm going to give you the assets, everything in a couple of weeks. So it's on the 11th of August. So you can just go ahead and sign up for it. All you need to do is put your email and a name so that I can send you the files and I can send you the links for that workshop. It is entirely free, and I'm going to cover this obviously with more time, let's say, to go through all the specifics and answer questions that you might have. And you will have exactly the same file that I'm going to give you, which is like a retro robot, and you basically can follow along and ask questions if you find any hurdle. But it is aimed for absolute beginners. So like if you've never opened Painter, that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to bring people into Painter.
Is that a live thing that you're doing? Is it live like this was live? Or is it
it will be live.
It'll be live. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. 11th of August. Workshop. Well, send us those links. I'll make sure it's updated in the description for those that are watching. And we'll share it out. But that was awesome, Pablo. I love seeing that. It always just makes me want to get more stuck into 3D and spend a lot more time in there. You make it look easy, and you explain it really, really well. But yeah, super cool.
Well, I'm glad that's the goal, right? Like if you're curious now and you're like, I want to try this, by all means, that's the point of this session.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, mission accomplished. Thank you everybody for watching live as well, and Johanna for looking after us in chat. Thank you, everybody, for watching on demand. If you are watching live, we are jumping into branding next. So in about exactly 15 minutes now, we'll be jumping in with Jeremy Muir, and we'll be doing some mood boarding and concepting. So we've got your design stuff covered here today on Adobe Live. And
you can do a brand for this.
Yeah, it's should be lots of fun. We're using new Firefly boards, which is a new kind of AI thing. It's actually really cool. It's like a visual way to kind of mood board and things like that. But stick around if you want to check that out. We're going to be jumping into that and looking at it from a branding kind of concepting lens. But Pablo, thank you so much again. I'm looking forward to checking out that 11th of August date. Again, we'll share the link in here. And thank you so much for joining us on Adobe Live.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me, Flynn. It's been fantastic as always. And I'll see you next time.
See you next time. See you, everyone. Bye.
See ya. Bye.